deep peace of the running wave to you. Moon and stars pour their healing light on you.
I'm Lesley Everest, and this is what a minister looks like. So welcome, everybody. Welcome to the first edition of This is What a Minister Looks Like. And so the point of this show is really about taking the term minister and reshaping it into something different that has more meaning in our day and age, when a lot of people are stepping away from organized religion but still looking for meaning in their lives. So for me, the word minister embodies a person who is tending to the needs of others. And so that means minister is not just somebody who is in the clergy, but it is anybody who is an ordinary person using their gifts in extraordinary service for humanity. And so today we're really lucky to be with Susan Briscoe, who has agreed to share with us some very precious time. And so we're going to chat with her today, and I will ask her some questions, and this will unfold. So thank you, Susan, for being with us.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
So the reason why I really wanted to have you on this show was because you are a very gifted writer, and you are using this gift in a way that is bringing a lot of hope and healing to people. I know people who are reading your blog and who are finding tremendous comfort and insight. I know people who are quoting you, actually. So Susan is writing a book called The Death Project, and it is a beautiful journal and about insights that she shares with us about her process as somebody who has a terminal illness. So Susan, do you want to share with us a bit about how The Death Project came to be? Like, how did you discover your writing skills?
Well, I've been a writer for a long time, so that one was easy for me as a choice of self-expression. And I guess at that point last spring, when I had this diagnosis, I realized that people were really uncomfortable with my health, with the fact that I was dying. And they didn't know how to talk to me about it or what to do about it, whether they could visit me or mention it. You know, people were saying, well, I don't know if it's a secret or not. And I realized, like, wait a minute, like, why would this be a secret? And I had this very strong feeling that I didn't want to hide what was going on. And I thought I should be sharing this. And it just struck me that we don't know how to do death anymore in our culture. We don't know how to talk about it. And so I wanted to let people know that I wasn't suffering as much as they assumed I was, just from what I was picking up about how people were talking to me. And it started that I just wrote an email to my colleagues at work sort of saying, no, I'm okay, I'm at peace. I'm not in this state of despair and distress with the diagnosis. I've accepted it and it's okay. So I wrote that email, and then that was only my colleagues, and I realized there were all these other people in my life that I wanted them to know that I was okay. So I started writing just Facebook posts, and then that seemed an awkward medium. It didn't suit my posts were getting longer and longer, and I thought, okay, I've got to put this on a blog or something that makes more sense. So that's how it started.
Yeah, there are a lot of beautiful books coming out right now by people who are in the process or who have passed, and they are becoming such a source of comfort, and I really feel like your words are among these great works. I've been incredibly moved by it, and I thought, when it comes to doing a show about ministry, I really wanted to do it with you, and so I'm so grateful that you did. So going to your diagnosis, I don't want to spend a lot of time on your illness. I want to spend a lot of time on your gift. But what was that like for you, finding out that you were so desperately ill?
It was a little surreal. I was given the diagnosis just literally minutes before being put under general anesthetic for this surgery that was supposed to just be a hysterectomy to remove a tumor that had gotten enormous. So I don't know, maybe I processed it while I was unconscious, I'm not sure. But I did feel immediately peaceful about it, that I accepted it right away. And for me, that was the biggest gift, was that I was able to accept it and not be angry or in denial or any of those things about it, or even distressed, really. I was just worried about my family finding out. And when I came out of the anesthesia, I just was so anxious to get to my family because I knew they'd been waiting for hours and hours, and the surgery had gone on so much longer than expected because my condition was so much worse and had progressed so much more than we had thought. So it took a long time, and I knew how worried they'd be, and I wanted to tell them not to worry, that I was okay. So my first thought actually was that there must be some important job for me on the other side. And think how incredible our instinct for finding meaning in everything is. And maybe for me it's overblown.
I don't know about
too
that.
strong a drive to find meaning in everything in life. But that was important for me to have purpose. And then I realized, the purpose isn't after I'm dead, it's before I'm dead. It's doing this work that's important. That's what my job is. My job is dying right now. And it really felt to me like that was my new job, my new occupation in life, was this end phase. And so I got to it in a way that I do most of my work, the research and writing and thinking about it a lot. And that led me to writing about it.
Amazing. How have been the reactions of your writing, by your family?
One of my nephews wrote on some of my first blog quotes that was it TLDR. And I was like, what does that mean? I had no idea what this meant. Too long, didn't read.
Oh, snap!
Yeah. And I know my youngest son is not reading my posts. He says he's going to read them later on when he feels ready. And I guess when he misses me, I guess.
Yeah. The babies, huh?
Yeah. And I think it's been most interesting for maybe my parents, people who have, my father, confessed that he's finally now accepted that he will die. He's accepted his own mortality and in having to accept mine. He's 75, so that's something, and I think they're a little maybe in over their heads a little bit, but trying to tread water and figure this thing out, and that's partly what I'm trying to help them with in the blog. And we've been this extraordinarily fortunate family in that I'm 50 and I've never lost anybody close to me, and so we haven't had this experience in my family at all.
Right.
Nobody's been seriously ill or dying, so I feel that there's this opportunity to forge a path that I hope will make this passage easier for my family members when they get to it, or when the next person is there.
Yeah. I mean, losing a child, losing a mother is unspeakable, but I can only imagine that the peace that you're giving them by writing about your serenity is so much part of this gift. Of course, they're going to be sad. They're going to be devastated, as devastating as it must be for you to be beginning to unhook from these life attachments, and how sad that is. But for them to know that you were essentially okay while you were doing it, I can only imagine is such a blessing for them, because this is not the typical experience of people that I have encountered who have had, a terminal illness. Many of them go in really fighting it, and of course, people should have hope. Miracles do happen, but when somebody intuitively comes forward and says, "I know that this is a terminal illness. I know that I will die from it," I think it's so important to respect them and to differentiate between curing and healing. And so it sounds like what you're doing is an incredible healing process right now as you approach the end of your life, to cultivate serenity, to cultivate a sense of appreciation. From your blog, just expressing the little appreciations for smelling a flower, for being in your garden, for all of those little things. It's such a huge reminder, not just to those who are dying or who are going to be grieving, but to all of the living, to do these things with presence and with serenity.
Yeah, I have a lot of responses to what you've just said, and one of them is this idea of healing, and one of the things that has become, I think I was aware of before, but has become so much clearer to me even now, is how ill our society is, in particular in the way we approach death. And we're so death phobic, and we see that in every way. Death is hidden from us. We don't want to talk about it. We don't even have funerals anymore a lot of the time. So that was I think we need to do a lot of healing on that level in our society, because it seems to me that it's our mortality that makes life meaningful.
Yeah.
And so if we can't come to terms with our mortality, make peace with death, then we're very likely to be off track in our lives. We're not going to make the right choices towards a meaningful life if it's not with that perspective that there's death at the end of it. So that's really a really important idea for me, that we start talking about death and thinking about it and bringing it home.
Bring it home. The meaning is in the impermanence, right? It is in finding meaning in our own lives and making those choices that nourish our dreams, that gives meaning to all of this that will not be remembered in thousands of years. None of this will be here anymore. But the meaning that we made, we carry with us. Yeah, and hopefully help others along the way.
And I think others carry our meaning after us.
Yes.
And, But I think something else you said about that hope for miracles is something that I've thought a lot about. I've so appreciated people's thoughts and prayers throughout this, and I really feel them, and it's felt healing to me and sustaining, often in the moments that have been difficult. But I've often felt when people have pushed the hope idea, you don't give up, you can fight it, keep hoping, then miracles happen. I've often felt that was a sort of negation of my experience. I felt that those people they're not meeting me where I am, and seeing that, yes, I hope for a miracle too. It would be lovely, but that's not what my experience is right now. My experience is living my dying. Put those two words together, because even though I am dying is part of life. So I am still living in that sense. But I think that fixation on hope is, again, speaking of our fear of death. So, there's a time to stop hoping and go into acceptance. And my hope is for other things. My hope is for healing for myself and peace and healing for my family, for those who need it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's definitely what's happening. I think a lot of people are being exposed to new ideas through your writing, because it is so much a part of our Western culture to negate death, to just keep pushing forward. And that was the most amazing thing, was, what you are finding is sustaining your love of life right now, even though you know that the end is near. I mean, the end is there for everybody, but you happen to know it's nearer than the average person, is your acceptance of the end, that's truly the healing. It's not grasping onto hope that for you would be false, but to just surrender to this truth and to know that there's not really any control. Because, share with us about what your life was like. I mean, I've known you forever. You're a health fanatic, right?
A little bit. Without, I think a lot of people think of health fanatics as negative people who are, not enjoying life because they're drinking kale smoothies,
which are very good, by the way.
Yeah, I like kale smoothies. But I was a bit of a health fanatic, mostly because it brought me pleasure. I loved running. I always ran with this big smile on my face, and I loved vegetables. Vegetables were these beautiful, sensual things for me. So I took a lot of pleasure in eating well and exercising. For me, it was always a celebration of life and health and vitality. And vitality to me just means that life force. So my health fanaticism was really about enjoying life and celebrating that I was alive. So I'm very grateful. I think when I was diagnosed, I remember I was thinking how much I didn't want to leave, but how I'd had more joy, I think, in my life than most people. And I'd lived so fully and with such gratitude that I didn't regret my time here. I felt I really had lived it as fully as I could. So at least I wasn't plagued with regret. And I think regret is one of the things that makes a terminal diagnosis so difficult for so many people, and so bitter, because we can't go back. And I can't do anything about the past, and I can't do very much about the future. So I'm really, it really forces this focus on the moment and being present and really enjoying each day, even though sometimes I don't.
Of course.
I try.
Yeah, yeah.
There are still bad days.
Of course there are. That's just humanity. You have one bad day, and just everything falls to shit, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and you have to kind of pick yourself up from it and get back to that. That's the work, right? It's the work.
Yeah, which, is that, it brings us back to that idea of control. I mean, we can be trying to do everything right and be spiritually grounded as much as we can, but things happen, and there are so many forces at play, and most of those forces we don't have control over. So we need to learn, again, to accept whatever happens and make the best of it. And that's where we have the control, is in how we deal with what life throws at us. We have a choice about the attitude that we take to face those challenges.
And if you can do that, and you can take this attitude and really walk this walk, even at this incredibly difficult point in your life, what a mastery that is. What a beautiful success. And something that I feel people need to hear about and read about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm partly lucky in that I have some strange stubbornness that makes me refuse to be stuck in the negative, to be stuck in tragedy, or for things to be irrevocably gone wrong. So no matter what happens, I feel determined to make the best of it and somehow turn it around into something worthwhile. I refuse to believe that anything is not worthwhile in life, I guess. I work hard to make that choice, even when it's a difficult choice, to embrace what there is and learn from it, and be grateful, and hopefully come to a place again of joy and gratitude.
So how do your days unfold? These days, what is a typical day like for Susan?
In many ways it's not that different from the way I used to spend my days. A lot of time on the laptop, still probably far too much time on Facebook, wasting time. Though I actually have wonderful friends on Facebook who post really interesting things, and I take a lot of pleasure in seeing other people's happy moments on Facebook, and sharing whatever wonderful things they have going on in their lives. So I like to celebrate that. Reading, writing, spending time with my loved ones mostly. Not exercising much anymore, though sometimes when I'm well enough I do some swimming. Meditating, and that's mostly it. Really very quiet time. People think I'm quite busy, but actually I have quite a bit of time still for others. I'm still happy to meet new people, and I love hearing about other people's lives and what's going on with them. People think sometimes that they need to focus on me when they visit, and that's really not. Talking about my illness is not that interesting, really. The less time and energy I spend on the medical part of this ordeal, the happier I am, I realized. So now I'm not in treatment, so there's very little going on medically, and I'm relatively symptom-free, so I'm able to enjoy my time still, so that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, lots of time in the garden when the weather's nice.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. You mentioned in your blog, you were talking about your choice to have a green burial. So tell us a bit about what that is.
Well, composting is really what it's about. For me, that's always been a kind of spiritual practice, really, for a long time. I think composting really helps us see that life comes from death, ultimately. And so death is really important. We need to honor it, because that's the source of life. So everything that has nourished us, all the food that we've eaten, or the scraps that we haven't eaten, so I don't actually have a composting toilet. Otherwise there would be that part of it too. Yeah. So all this food we have, or the things in the garden that were beautiful just a few moments ago and are not alive anymore. I compost, And then that nourishes the new life. It nourishes the new flowers and the next season's vegetables, and that will sustain us again. So for me, it really embodies the cycle of life. It's so important in that way. So green burial means that I want my body to be part of that cycle. So my body is to be given back to the earth and composted. So I have, we've bought already my casket, which is basket. It's like a basket. It's woven out of willow. So the worms will be able to get in there pretty easily instead of a normal casket, which is designed to inhibit the decomposition of the body. And we'll have the burial at a more shallow level, not the 6 feet under, but just a few feet under, so that all that life in the earth will be happening, and my body will be part of that. And then we'll plant a tree at my grave that will be nourished by my body. So it's really about truly participating in that, ashes to ashes and dust to dust, being part of the earth again.
I love that idea. I have a lot of respect for that. That's incredible.
Yeah, you have to get past the kind of gross part of the decomposition and the worms eating and the bugs eating your body. And I'm a really squeamish person. Like, I was traumatized the first time in my life that I saw maggots. Like, truly traumatized. So, it's not an idea that I'm entirely comfortable with, but it's still spiritually important enough to me that that's my choice for a burial.
Yeah. It's, the fact that you get to have some time to create, your own vision of what you want for your body, for your funeral. I mean, that's interesting. You mentioned that you were meeting with a pastor, so you were making some funeral plans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel very lucky that I have a diagnosis that gives me a little bit of time. Mm-hmm. And that way I'd always hoped that I wouldn't have a sudden death, that I'd have time to make peace and do what I needed to do and experience my death as this inherent part of a crucial, important part of life. So that's been a gift, and part of my death plans, my post-death plans, are the green burial, but also a home death. I'm hoping to die at home, have palliative care at home, and I think that comes from it bookends with my home births that I had with my children, and at that time, 25 years ago, I think I started thinking about death at home and how important that was also. So to deinstitutionalize these major life events. So I don't want to use a funeral home. I explained to my family that I would like people to just gather in my home for a week. And we'll have a service at the Unitarian Church with the minister there who I've met with and understands what I would like for that service.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I know that a lot of people might be really, I don't want to ask those questions, but you're such an open person and you're so committed to this gift, and you've written about it. I thought I would ask you about it. So thank you for sharing.
I'm working on a post on the green burial too, but I haven't finished it yet.
Great. Well, I'm looking forward to reading it.
Mm-hmm.
So your partner is also writing a blog right now about his experience of being with somebody who is going through the dying process. So how is it for you to read your partner's blog?
Well, it usually makes me cry. His are, I think, much sadder posts than mine, because I tend to think that that what my family is going through or will go through is in many ways harder than what I am going through. I won't have that real grief. I have a little bit of grief now, but it's really anticipatory grief. I haven't lost those things yet. I'm just sad that I will. But once I've lost them, I won't be experiencing that loss anymore. They'll have to live with the loss in a way that I won't have to. So his blog seems sadder to me than mine. But he's a beautiful writer.
Yes.
It's hard to read, but I think it's important for others also to see how loved ones handle this sort of diagnosis.
He's so open and vulnerable in his blog, because I'm an avid reader of it as well. Talking about how he needed people around him, how he didn't want to be alone when he found out your diagnosis. And both of your blogs are both so strong, but there's also this fearlessness about being vulnerable in them, and there's so much healing in that vulnerability. I think that's what moves people the most. It really touches their hearts, and it helps them to absorb and soak in the message. It's like, oh, wow, well, if they can go there, I can read this, and I can allow this in too. I'm incredibly moved by both of them. And his name is Roy Cross, and you can look up his blog as well. I am going to put a little link to it also, as well as the Death Project, so you can read both of them. And it's like in the book by Paul Kalanithi, when breath becomes air. His wife, in the epilogue, sort of picks up the story where Paul leaves off when he can't write anymore, and when he passes away. And she is a beautiful writer in her own right. She has a book coming out, I believe,
does she?
also. Yes, soon. And she speaks so poignantly about the experience of his death, the days leading up, the process, and the afterwards for her and her family and his loved ones. And so I imagine that Roy might do the same and pick up the story, so that the people who are so passionate about reading your work will know the end story. How does that feel for you?
No, I hadn't thought about it. That feels good to me. I'm glad that that's happening. I've learned a lot from Roy about how to be vulnerable. He's much better at it than I am. So I'm grateful to him for that. And I think he will keep writing after, and I think it is very healing for him and therapeutic. And I think he has really appreciated that it gives him more connection to others. This process of sharing has been such a gift for us. It's really been lovely to see that people appreciate it, and it's made this meaningful in a way that it wouldn't be otherwise. Death is, it's loss. Yeah. But this has given us something in that's not loss. That's really something that we received as a gift.
Yeah. It's amazing work that both of you are doing in the face of something that is very sad. It's very sad. As much as we talk about that it is healing and beautiful and uplifting, there is so much sadness that's interwoven. That's also part of the death experience, and I think that sadness is what hurts people so much.
Yeah, it's what we're afraid of. I think we're afraid of how sad we might get, and that pain, and that it might not end, or how bad is it going to be. But I guess I'm hoping to tell people that it's that pain is not going to kill you. it's survivable, and that I remember thinking this a couple of times and wanting to say, it's death. It's not the end of the world. Of course, it is for me, but it's not for everybody else yet. And it's also funny. we use humor a lot for dealing with it. Even my kids use humor, and much to their friends' dismay sometimes. But we laugh a lot about it. We laugh about it a lot, but we wouldn't be able to laugh about it if we weren't talking about it to begin with. And we wouldn't be able to cry about it either together if we weren't talking about it. So I really believe strongly that undoing that silence about death is so, so important. And then we see that it's not really as scary as we think it is. You know, everybody is so sure that it's frightening, and it's not. There's really nothing to be afraid of in it.
I'm so happy to hear that from you. You know, I always kind of think of birth and dying as quite similar. We have this incredible fear about the pain of opening in birth. The cervix has to open in a way it's never opened before, and it hurts. It hurts a lot, it's true, we won't lie about that. But you give birth through that openness to your greatest power. And when, you know, we're thinking about the heart opening to sadness, it hurts for the heart to dilate in sadness. It hurts to open to grief, and it's scary to open that widely to grief, but isn't that the way that we open to grace? We give birth to grace through that wide open, hurting heart. And it is quite miraculous to those who want to grieve naturally, right? Yeah. There's no epidural for this, right?
No, and you don't need to go on antidepressants for it, which is, I think, standard now for people who are grieving. Even for me, the doctor, my palliative doctor, immediately handed me a prescription for anti-anxiety medication, even though I hadn't expressed that I was experiencing anxiety, but that's just what they hand out to dying people as a matter of course, along with the painkillers, and I haven't used any of them yet because I'm not feeling anxious about it, which is a gift. But I think you're right that we need to be brave in that way and accept that it might hurt, but that there's something to be valued in that, and that really the flip side of grief is this joyous gratitude, and the two, it just flips back and forth all the time. So I can cry one moment and then feel just this joy the next, because the grief is for the loss of all that we most cherish. And that's what we're so grateful for too. So, you were there at my son's second birth, and I remember talking to you as I was preparing for that birth, and I remember you telling me to not resist the contractions, to go with them and just feel a connection to the earth and get have that energy flow. And I remember doing that, and miraculously it wasn't painful. It was a painless birth.
I remember showing up and you were squatting on the floor, and I walked into your house and you said, "Can I get you anything?" And then you had your baby about 10 minutes later. You did that like a boss. It's incredible. You are a special bird, Susan.
The first birth is not like that, I must say, but I think I learned something from your instruction in not resisting, and I'm trying to do that now, to not resist, which is about letting go, I guess, letting go to what is and what must be, which is what birth and death are. They're things that must be.
Do you have any spiritual beliefs about what happens after?
Nothing very specific. No. I'm pretty comfortable with the idea that there's nothing. That's okay for me. But I don't have any Christian beliefs in heaven or hell, like a hell to be afraid of. I think that might be a big source of people's fears.
Yeah.
I do believe that love is immortal, so that will survive me. And I also believe that it's entirely possible that there's more, that there's a whole other dimension to this universe, and I don't know what it is or how it will be, but I like to imagine it as a state of connection to everything. I think that's how I most like to imagine it, a spiritual connection. So I don't feel too much like I won't be there with my loved ones. I think I'll still be there.
That's a beautiful and a comforting thought. I like that thought. So is there anything else that you would like to share?
I think I've said most of what I hope to say. Yeah, can't think of anything else.
Well, it is such an honor to sit with you, Susan, as somebody who is spiraling towards the mystery, as we all are, but that you are close to it. And I have beheld this body of yours in so many situations. Full disclosure, I've known Susan for half of our lives. We came into motherhood. I met you when you were pregnant with your first baby. So 25 years ago, that's half our lives ago. And, you know, we came into motherhood in such a strong, beautiful community together. We kind of attended each other's births and did belly blessings and cooked in community kitchens and had play groups and, you know, been out dancing till the wee hours in clubs and taken belly dancing classes. We've had a lot of fun, and so this is sad for me, because I know when this camera goes off and I leave, that will be the end of this phase. And I'm so grateful for everything, the good, the hard, everything. So grateful for what you have brought to my life and to my motherhood and to my own ministry, allowing me to do this with you. And I know it might sound weird, but I wish people a beautiful birth all the time. I wish you a beautiful death, Susan. May you be surrounded by everything that you need to go in a blaze of glorious peace. And may you leave behind this immense love and wisdom for everybody to participate in. I am rendered speechless by your grace and your beauty. Thank you, beloveds, for joining us. As we wipe away our tears, this is what a minister looks like. Tears, snot, everything. Until next time.
Deep peace of the running wave to you. Moon and stars pour their healing light on you.